Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome to an anticipated video that I've been promising for some time now, since 10.2 came out, and that is a full restoration druid guide. It's me, Insightful, and I'm gonna give you everything I've given you in previous guides. Not much has changed from a druid perspective, but I still think it's really good with a new season underway, and we're over 2-3 weeks in now. It's really important you know how to utilize your druid, what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses. Now I'm going to cover various things in this guide, but just to give you an overview, I will, like other videos, break it up into different sections, but I'm going to cover the talents, the best talents to run with a melee DPS in 2s, best talents to run with a caster or a range DPS in 2s, and the best talents to run in solo shuffle. And these are all, in my opinion, experience of how I like to play the druid. I'll also show you some optional talents and some variations on the build, PvP talents to run. I'll show you what the gear priority is. I'll show you how to heal, 2v2 comps you should try and run, 3v3 comps, and the mindset of solo shuffle. And then I will talk about macros and other useful tips and tricks as well. So hopefully you will enjoy this guide. It will help you. If it does help you, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Also, feel free to head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/insightful.tv. Enjoy the video. So guys, the first thing we're going to talk about are the talents. Now, I've kind of taken talents from last season and I've broken them down into what I feel works for me, how I like to play. Now, I like to play the druid as both aggressive and controlling. I don't think we're necessarily a damage spec, but we can certainly pump out damage at key moments, and this is what I think makes a good druid to a poor druid player. So first of all, let me show you my various talents, starting with the 2v2 with a melee and why I have gone what I have gone. So when we're talking about a melee class, we're predominantly talking about warrior, outlaw, rogue, a DK, and a DH, an enhancement shaman if possible, but I would recommend either a warrior or an outlaw rogue, even an assassination rogue. You want a DPS that has relatively good control. Now you can see in my talents I've pretty much taken rake away and I've gone for the tanky build. Now this is because a lot of melee DPSs have so much control. Warrior has Stormbolt. You've got Fear every 45 seconds with Battlefield Commander. You've got lots of utility on the Warrior. So really what you should be focusing on doing is keeping the heals up and getting out the CC. You've still got Bash. You've got Entangling Roots. You can easily use Roots, get a clone off. You can easily use Vortex, get a clone off. You can bash every 1 minute, get a clone off, or you can switch the clones up. If the warrior is going to Stormbolt or stun, you can get a clone off the Fear. It may DR, but there are a bunch of things that you can do. And obviously with the new talents like Master Shapeshifter and Call of the Elder Druid, you're going to be really tanky, because if we look at Heart of the Wild, you've got Bear Form, which is 20% increased stamina, multiple uses of Iron Fett, and 2 frenzied regen. So you're really tanky. And what I think is really important with when you're playing with a warrior is that you give them chance for their mortal strike to take effect. So you want to be alive for a long time. Same for an outlaw rogue. They're going to be kidneying, they're going to be cheap shotting, gouging, lots of control. And if you can stay back, pump Star Surge, pump Wrath from a distance, you're going to generate mana, be doing big damage, and ultimately they're not going to be stressing out trying to peel you, because you're going to keep away at user range with Astral Influence to keep control of the fight. Now I also want to point out that you will notice that I've opted to not take Germination. Now this is because of Incarnation Tree of Life, and we get this on a reduced cooldown. So the cooldown of Incarnation Tree of Life is reduced by 5 seconds when Grove Guardians fade. So obviously we get Grove Guardians. They're a major part of our healing now. Some people say they're overpowered. Truth be told, they're not. We don't put out half as much DPS of Preservation, Restoration Shamans, and Disc Priests. So we need really strong output, healing output for our healing. However, I do opt for this because it's another major cooldown like Ironbark, and if you use Ironbark and this cooldown properly, you become tanky yourself, you become immune to polymorphs. Every 10 seconds you're in the form, you summon a treant, so you get really good passive healing. And then obviously if you're expecting CC, then you can spam Grove Guardians on yourself if it's going to be a trapper or hunter. But ultimately all my specs don't play Germination. I opt for Incarnation Tree of Life. You can play Germination if it's in solo shuffle, but honestly I think this combined with Master Shapeshifter is just really good healing output and really good mana regeneration, which is obviously really good for most compositions. Anyway, let's go into the 2v2 caster build. So the 2v2 caster build is mainly around the style of MM Marcus and how he plays. He is an incredibly good player. He's better than me. However, I do make one change here that I think is optimal for the play style, and I will suggest why I've done this. So the caster spec is for when you're playing with warlocks, shadow priests, frost mages, fire mages, elemental shamus. Now when you're playing with a warlock or a frost mage, you can opt to go convoke. Now the reason for this is that they're very tanky. They're going to be kiting a lot, and you're not going to be putting out huge amounts of healing when compared to an elemental shami, a fire mage, or a shadow priest who is pretty much going to be tanking enemies in the face. So you can go convoke if you don't need that healing, but I honestly don't think the DPS value of convoke is massively worth it in my opinion. Obviously you want to be using convoke when you've got 5 stacks, but I think using maim and getting the CC is more important to secure the kills than pumping out 3 to 500k DPS. I think you can just spam Wrath, 3 or 4 of them, you're going to be doing 200, 300k damage, but this is just how I like to play. So optimally, what you want to do when you're playing with a caster is you want to be opening up with Rake, you on the off target, bashing the DPS target, doing a lot of damage, and then obviously while the other one's bashed, you want to be cloning, and then when you've finished bashing the target, you want to then clone the bash target and then maim the target that's come out of the clone, do some damage, run, retreat, wait for the maim cooldown, and you want to be repeating this cycle. Obviously if you've got bash off DR, let the warlock CC the other target, you maim the kill target or whatever, and then you do your damage. And you want to be switching up this cycle, getting off big bites to regenerate mana. Obviously if you've got convoke, you're not going to be running out of mana. You want to be keeping up Moonfire, you want to be running in with Shred using Rip, and you're just weaving in and out damage as well. And because your cast is kiting, you've got loads of CC in the composition. This is why maim and Rake are really useful, because you're going to be stunning the target, allowing the caster to get those Rays of Frost, massive Chaos Bolts into the enemy, and obviously just maximizing the DPS. However, the weakness is that if they are going you, obviously you've got speed, you've got some ability, your survivability without some of this stuff, it does make you weaker. So you would obviously opt to play Heart of the Wild just for that tankiness when you're in bear form, but ultimately you're playing around your cat form and you're playing up around setting the kills for for the casters. Now, some people may argue that you should always go Convoke with every caster, but I think it's easier to go Convoke with those tanky casters such as Locks and Frost Mages, or even an Arcane Mage. If you're with an Elemental Chamois, I promise you're going to want Tree of Life, because there's going to be moments where the Chamois is just tanking damage in the face, and regardless of their CC, how good they are, you may struggle to keep them up if you play Convoke, and obviously you've not got the double rejuve either. Otherwise, everything else is pretty standard in this. You'll notice I always opt for the range here, and I've just gone for these control. You can obviously switch this up and put a point in Tireless Pursuit. You can leave it like this. It's quite nice. It's quite good if you're shifting in and out of cat form. You can opt for putting a point in Typhoon if you want. You can take this and go Improve Nature's Cure. You can take that, put it in Typhoon, like I said, put it in there like that. It just depends what you want and what you're going to be doing in the situation. If you're against a druid, a hunter, Hibernate can be really good. So yeah, play around with your points and look at how you kind of want to play. If you're on a big map, even stampeding raw could be good if you know you're going to get target. So this solo shuffle build has been changed time and time again. I switch things around quite often, so one thing I will mention, depending on what map I'm on, so if I'm on the map with a bridge where I can knock them off, or another map, I will take Typhoon. It can be useful against Locks and another, particularly with Mass Entangle, and obviously BM Hunters as well. It can be good against it to just keep the pets. In combination with Mass Entangle, you can really dampen their go. The reason I take Rake is to more or less set up really good CC chain. So, you know, I will rake one of the healers and then I'll bash someone and then I'll go into tree form. And because most people in solo shuffle pump their DPS immediately, and then I'll stay back and obviously use a range of Astral Influence, what we've got here, to continue my healing rotation, obviously utilizing things like Cenarium Ward for the big heals and just ensuring that Life Bloom is always topped. But this spec is very all-round. It's very tanky because you are in freeze, and ultimately if you're alive, there's a much better chance of your DPS being alive. We're also taking Innovate here. I like to use this in conjunction with Tree of Incarnation, but this build is a great steady free build. And honestly, you can use this build for your freeze as well. It's really clone heavy. We're kind of playing around our DPS, setting up the CC chains, and then you're just going to clone whatever target is left. But this build is really solid. There's nothing special about it. You should be able to climb high with this. I got to 1600 in like the first couple of days of playing with this build, but obviously I changed things. I was actually playing with Germination initially, and then I went to Tree of Life, and now I've gotten used to it quite a bit. So yeah, this is a solo shuffle build, guys. Give it a try. And those are pretty much the free builds that I use all the time for most situations. Like I say, I've shown you how you can pick and tweak things and how you can optimize different builds for different things. Now, some people may be asking for an RBG build, Random Battlegrounds. The only thing that I would say for you to do in Random Battlegrounds is you want to maximize your AoE healing. So you want to be going in Improved Wild Growth. You want to be taking Verdancy as well. That's a really nice one. And you probably want to be taking Germination just for the double hots, and also there is another early spring. You want to be taking that as well. That's pretty much all you're going to be changing up with this, so you can pretty much copy this and add that in to the pan. And obviously if you're wanting to go kind of more aggressive build, you could even add in Nature's Vigil, which all damage enemies and really help with those AoE fights you're going to be doing. You could add Star Surge in, remove Rake. There's loads of stuff, and I would probably take improved Nature's Swiftness as well for those big dispels. But yeah, play around with the talents, guys. Those are the 3 builds that I'm using, so it's nothing special. I think now we're probably going to move on to PvP talents and other maybe special talents that I would play into. So guys, different comps call for different talents. I am going to say this, and I could be wrong, but I would say 60 to 70% of the time you're going to be playing Keeper of the Grove for Tranquility, which obviously protects you from all harm, except if you're against a monk, you want to be taking Inner Peace, which obviously stops you being knocked back. You don't always need to take it, it's not like essential, but it has been proven that monk has the highest burst in under 5 seconds. This season, DHs are also huge, so are Destro Orcs, Elemental Shamans, and Boomies. However, you can always take Vortex into a monk, and you can pretty much use that when you see them come in, put it underneath them. If they've got Fist of Furies up, you know they're going to be coming to try and get the kill on you. You've then got Focus Growth. Do I need to say anymore? I've mentioned this in my other videos. If we just read it together, it reduces the cost of your Life Bloom, which will always be your biggest healing, and applies Focus Growth to the target, increasing Life Bloom's healing by 8% and stacks up to 3 times. And obviously, with Budding Leaves, Life Bloom heals is increased by 6% each time it heals by up to 90%, and then the final bloom amount by 15%. So obviously you want to let it bloom, as well as also having photosynthesis. Let it bloom and then reuse it to get the bloom effect. So while your life bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals on them have 4% chance to cause it to bloom. And also in 2s, you also want to be using this on yourself while it's on your ally, because you heal up to 20% faster on your periodic heals, which is absolutely ridiculous. And obviously you've got the standard Verdant Infusion. You're going to extend all your hots with Swift Mend, which is obviously incredibly useful. But I think pretty much, like, looking at all of these talents now, Wild Synthesis is another essential one for solo shuffle, because your Treants are going to cast Wild Growth immediately, which is another 12k hot. So when you've got 3 of them, that's like another 40k healing per second. But otherwise, yeah, guys, I think everything else is standard. Different PvP talents to play in 2 different comps can really make a big difference. A lot of people have said to me, why don't you always play Reactive Resin into Chamois or Discipline Priests or Mages? And this is purely because right now, if we look at Grove Guardians and we look at the fact that when you spawn one, they also use Wild Growth, this is pretty much Dispel Protection. So that's why I always feel it's better to have Call of the Elder Druid, because you're more tanky. The effects you get from it whilst you're in balance and Guardian form just outweigh a few dispels, and I feel like this is very lightweight compared to obviously having the Grove Guardian up every few seconds on a 20-second cooldown. And the fact they've got to use 3 to dispel you, it's absolutely fine. You can reapply the hot, and if they want to keep dispelling, they're not healing, are they? So that's absolutely fine. But yeah, that is just my preferred one. I've not found any usage for high winds this season because damage is so high. We should be focusing more on survivability than 15% off healing and damage. You can take Thorns into a warrior, but again, with the damage being so high, I've noticed healers get trained even more. Disentanglement can be really good against DKs and survival hunters. Trying to think, I don't think assassination rogue count, but yeah, this can be really powerful into them if you're not getting trained. Deep roots again can be really good depending on what composition you're going to play, so you've just got to really look at what you're playing in, and early springs is just always used in battlegrounds because obviously it makes wild growth and instant cast. Otherwise though, guys, you're not really going to use anything else. If you stuck with these three, you're not going to notice a massive difference. You can try and play around with some different ones, but what I've just told you is what I tend to do as a restoration druid myself, and I'm quite a passive druid. I can play aggressive, but I play more around setting up kills for my DPS rather than trying to secure the kill myself. And honestly, I've healed up to 25-30 mil without needing to drink at all, so mana is nowhere near as much an issue as it was in previous seasons. So now we're going to look at the actual gear priority and what we should be using this season. Now, as you can see, my haste is 21% and my mastery is still 18. Now I'm not full geared yet. I'm only using the 2 set. So just to go over the bonuses, your Grove Guardian's Nourish now heals 2 additional allies. Isn't really that good, to be honest, for a set. And then the 4 set is Consumes Clear Casting, now cast your Regrowth to also cast Nourish onto a nearby ally target, 200% effectiveness. Preferring those with your healer time, so if you've got more heals on the target, it's gonna prioritize them. It is nice, and you will probably do some big heals with it, but looking at that and reading that, it's pretty much when you regrowth, you're just gonna nourish your target as well, which is really nice. But obviously your Grove Guardians at the moment, they cast a nourish pretty much straight away. Yeah, look, they're just pretty much spamming it. So to me, it's not that much of a big deal, but it obviously does help. In terms of priority, I would tend to go for 21% haste, so you can get super fast clones. Obviously, when I cast that to get the abilities, you can see there that goes down to 1.4 seconds. Obviously the higher you go, the faster your clone time is. You want to be keeping your clones really pretty fast, and then sometimes I'll proc the haste buff, and then I will get a 1.2 second cast, which is insanely fast. But yeah, you want to be keeping your clone under 1.4 seconds, and 21% haste tends to be a really good spot. Mastery, you want to get this as high as you can. So when you've stacked out on haste, you want to be putting everything in mastery. You always want over 30% versatility. I know you see these druids that, you know, have like 20% versatility. I always beat them. They're going to die. The DPS is going to focus them. They're going to take more crits. It does make a huge difference to the overall damage done to you and healing done. So I would definitely get kind of 30%. Obviously, PvP, you can see I'm 36, and I'm using the goggles as well. Get your 21% of haste and then put everything in mastery. I'm hoping I can get 23% mastery once all my gear is obviously fully done. Now I will be putting a link down to the WoW Armory, but just so you can see my gear right now. I don't even know if the 4 set will be worth it. We'll have to see. The rings, and that's the gear I'm using at the moment. Those are the stats you want to go for. Obviously the enchant, you want to put speed on everything you can, and then I would go with mastery on the rings. Frozen, I think it's Frozen Thread on the pants, and Reserve of Intellect on the chest. And the weapon, I would put Earthen Writ on, which I believe sometimes procs your highest stats or haste or something. I can't exactly remember, but yeah, Earthen Writ would be what you want to go for. And that is pretty much it with gear priority as a druid. 2 set isn't the best thing, so don't be stressing about it if you've not got it. Focus on getting the haste and mastery and you will get it in time. So now we're on the part where I'm going to show you, excuse me, how to heal. Our healing rotation really hasn't changed, so I am in a group for this so you can see this, and this is how I do my hearts. First of all, I want to show you a quick trick on how to get 2 massive buff regrowths, and if you're using Germination. So what you're going to do is you'll cast Regrowth first, and then you'll cast Swift Mend, then you will cast the Regrowth, and then you're going to get a really huge one. And then on your next Swift Mend, you're going to Swift Mend again, and then you're going to rejuve, and then on that second rejuve, what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 massive 18k rejuvenations if you cast the Regrowth and then the Swift Mend first. It's a really nice way to do it. You can cast the Regrowth and then the Swift Mend and then the Rejuve almost instantly when you're coming out, and then 5 seconds by the time the fight starts, you've got 2 massive buffs to your healing, periodic healing over time in Arena. So the standard healing rotation, your number 1 priority, guys, is Life Bloom. As always, you always want to be getting the Life Bloom stacks on yourself or the enemy. I would always obviously optimize for free, and the more heals you have over time as well. With the mastery, I can't remember where it is. Here it is. Life Bloom counts for 3 stacks of mastery. The more healing you're going to do over time with your actual Life Blooms, and the longer the Life Blooms on a target, the more it heals over time. So the rotation is Life Bloom, 2 or 3 stacks. Then you're going to cast a Rejuve, and then I would probably cast a Regrowth because the Regrowth is pretty big, and you can cast a Regrowth on yourself, and if Life Bloom is on your DPS, they will get Regrowth as well. So far you've got Life Bloom, 3 Life Blooms, a Regrowth, and a Rejuvenation. Then what you're going to go for is an Adaptive Swarm. You'll cast that first because of the travel time, then the Cenarium Ward, then when the Cenarium Ward's procced, obviously I'm using enhanced raid frames, you can get this on my Discord. When that's procced, I'm then going to extend it by doing that, and then what I would do after that is I would cast a Grove Guardian. You want to keep one of these out at all times because it will help you mitigate your CDs, and then you want to big hop into the Swift Mend. I've just missed it there slightly on the target as it's taking DPS. So just run through that again. Life Blooms, Rejuvenation, Regrowth, Adaptive Swarm, Cenarium Ward. When the Cenarium Ward procs, then you're going to Swift Mend, and then while you're holding the Swift Mend, get up a Grove Guardian, and you can just keep them nicely topped. And as you see the bloom running off in the last 5 seconds, I'll just show you, just let the timer tick down. This little weak aura, you can get this on my Discord, will glow. You're going to top that on, and then you will get a nice little heal as it blooms, because if you reapply it within the 5 seconds, it does actually bloom. Obviously, for other use of spells, when you come out of a CD, you want to overgrowth. If your DPS lines you want to overgrowth them. But ultimately, your main priority is always keeping Life Bloom up on the target. Before you go in and get CC, make sure you've got all your hots up. I would always go in CC when you've got Cenarium Ward, because the Cenarium Ward is just major healing. And when we've got Tree of Life, this is like another CD. Treat this like Ironbark. I always use this one first and then use Ironbark. With this, I would always use Innovate on yourself, just so that you can cast freely. And again, your priorities is you can spam regrowth, but I wouldn't. I would put rejuves on, keep the life blooms up, and then that healing should be enough to handle most DPS, honestly. And obviously every 10 seconds you're gonna summon a guardian, so you'll easily be achieving over 100k healing, which is really, really good. And many classes argue it's overpowered. It's not overpowered given the fact that we're not a disc priest and pumping out 5 million damage, which obviously contributes towards a healing. So actually Blizzard have done a really good job in making druids feel strong, but not too overpowered. And if you can play a druid well, it will feel overpowered, but I can assure you a good shaman knows how to counter, a good disc priest knows how to counter, and anybody good at their class will know how to counter a druid. But druids are really good right now. We're in a really, really solid place. The next thing I'm going to tell you is what comps to run. So what 2v2 comps to run, what 3v3 comps to run. So let's suggest a couple of 2v2 comps. First of all, the number one 2v2 comp to run is Survival Hunter Restoration Druid. I have got 2.1k for the past 3 seasons as a Restoration Druid. Last season, I actually was top 50 for within the first month. It was one of my best achievements. I stopped pushing because the guy I played with went to PvE, and that was a survival druid. And this was before we had the Grove Guardians, and this was really tough. But the control you have, you're going to open up with a rake. You're then going to... Your hunter's then going to trap off the rake. You're then going to clone off the rake. The hunter's just going to be damaging the other target. You're then going to bash the other target, clone off that. The hunter's going to switch. You've got loads of, just from doing that, you've got loads of CDs, and you're just going to try and clone off every trap, bash the DPS on the go, or you can bash the healer. It just utilize your CDs. If you're against a monk, and the monk goes through, the survival hunter should just save their stun every time. If you're against a DH, they should be playing Ice Trap and going for the healer. So you can pretty much beat every comp if the survival hunter is good enough. If they're not good enough, then find somebody that is as good as you or is slightly better than you and can help you and doesn't mind you improving. Other 2v2 comps you can run, you can go with Casters, Frost Mage and a Warlock. That's really, really strong. I would encourage you to look up MM markers and look up how he plays with them. They're his favorite classes to play with. He plays Maim and Convoke. Very aggressive build. It's not the style I like to play with, but it is very fun and very good, so you can try it. You can go with a Warrior, Assassination Rogue, Outlaw Rogue, and those would be pretty much my top comps. I think a DH is good, but at high ratings, people know how to play against a DH. And it's just more about mitigating and taking the DH out the game. They're easy to CC. They're easy to kite despite their mobility. So, yeah, those are my top picks. And I would encourage you to obviously try them yourself. Now, in terms of 3v3, I've only really got experience with either casters. So either the comp Frost Mage and a Demonology Lock, which is really, really strong, or Warrior DK, a Warrior Enhancement Shami. Either one of these compositions, you can quite easily push the Glad. The Melee Cleave one is probably stronger and faster. You're going to push faster, but the Demonology Frost one is much better for longer mana-induced games. And as a Druid, you can long cast with them. You've got loads of peeling you can do, and they're going to be focused and very tanky. So maybe that comp is more friendly for people that are more new. Now, there are other comps you can play, like Elemental Shami Warrior, Elemental Shami Assassination Rogue. Not really too sure about what Hunter comps you can play, but those would be the comps that I would recommend you to try out. Thunder Cleave, Melee Cleave, and Lock and Mage. And solo shuffle mindset. Now, I think when people talk to me about this and I see loads of people rage, if you come and watch me on my stream, I don't rage. I think I got an offensive language warning for calling somebody an idiot for telling me I couldn't heal when they ran behind a pillar for like 10 seconds and then rage quit. Yeah, so obviously choose your words carefully. Don't focus on what the people do. Focus on what you can do, what you can control, how you can control. Don't stress if you're a 2.3k player and you're only at 1600 right now. The season is early. I'm going into 2s and I'm facing lads at 1.6k rating. These are my current ratings. I've played lots with my stream friends. I've helped them. I don't really care what my ratings are right now. I know I will push when I want to push, and I know I will get there. But yeah, 2v2. I've won 82 games, played 148. I know for a fact at least 40, 50 of those losses are from people that are just absolutely stupid. And that I've tried to help, and they don't see their errors, but that's fine. It's part of the cycle of PvP, guys. You have to embrace the losses and develop a good, strong mindset. Otherwise, there's no point. If you're going to play a class and think you're going to get 2.1k within the first season with no experience, you might as well turn this video off and go play another game. This game is really about persistence and consistency. It will take you a couple of seasons to get that first 2.1k or that first 2.4k. My goal is to get Glad this season, so I'm doing solo shuffle. I'm doing 2s first, and then I'll be pushing for Glad. But ultimately, guys, as a healer, it largely depends around your DPS. You're not going to carry as a healer in freeze. You can't. I've done solo shuffles where I've healed 70 mil and another heal's healed 40 mil, and I've gone for 2-4. People have seen it on the stream, and I've gone solo shuffles where a rogue is shadow dueled and killed a DH 3 times in a row, and then the DH blames me and says I can't heal. Now, you can react to that or you can respond to that. A reaction would be getting angry and blaming them. A response would be seeing that the rogue clearly killed him that fast. He's not got the capacity to understand what happened to him, so he needs to improve his own gameplay, and you just ignore him. That's what I would do. That's what I tend to do more of the time now, and I'm at 1600. I've got to 1678, but honestly right now, solo shuffle, it's just a little bit of randomness. I could push it high, and I think I could quite comfortably get 1800, 2k. However, I am only 2.2k experience, and obviously a lot of my experience is going into 2, so doing more 3v3 now is my priority. So when it comes to solo shuffle, focus on yourself, focus on what you did, record the games, look back at them, and be honest with yourself. Did you play well? Did you use your CDs right? Was it really the healer's fault that you run out of line of sight and didn't use your cooldown, or that he or she didn't heal you? The next thing that I want to go over is macros. What macros am I using? Why am I using these macros? And how are they useful? Honestly, the only real macro, the only real 2 macros that I think you need as a druid are the cancel aura and the drink macro. The drink macro is here. It is in my Discord, and the cancel aura one is there. The cancel aura one, you can just spam this as you're traveling to get rid of roots. Mine's on shift 4. I obviously have it with cat form, just because that's what I prefer. Some people may be different. And obviously the drink macro, which when you use it, mine's down here, puts you into stealth drinks. Do remember though, you can't drink while you've got a Grove Guardian up. You've obviously got other things. I have a macro for Life Bloom on myself, and I also have a macro to innovate myself. You can find all of these macros in my Discord, guys. The other one is for Nature Swiftness, which is here. So cast Nature Swiftness, cast Regrowth, you'll have to press it twice. And there is obviously Rake. I've never got an enemy out of stealth with this, so I genuinely have no idea. And the last big one, where is it? It's like a charge macro. Oh, that's a Catform Skull Bash, but that was for Feral. This one. So this macro is insane. This basically lets me, if I just find someone, so this basically lets me I can't do it right now, but basically I can target somebody. I think I can do it to a dummy. Just let me... oh god, I can't actually. I think it's just basically what you can do is you can target a dummy and fly to them. Oh right, I don't know what's going on. Don't think it's gonna let me. Yeah, there you go. So you can, I know you can't see it on the video, but you can basically fly to a dummy, whatever target you're on. So you can hover over your player frames and you can fly to that target. It's a really nice way, but you've got to be out of form, or if you're cat form you will charge, or if you're bear form you will charge, and it works on all forms. So that macro is available in my Discord too. Now the final thing that I want to teach you guys is how to take damage as a druid. Many people say to me, I'm taking too much damage, it's impossible. It's not impossible. What's impossible is that you're not accepting that you're doing it wrong. There's kind of, I've made videos about how to heal, how to, 10 tips for healing as a druid, and I cover it extensively in this video. You should not go into bear form and then backskin. When you're taking damage as a druid, you always want to make sure you've got life bloom on yourself, number one, because if we look at backskin and we actually look, what it does is your skin becomes as tough, all damage is reduced by 20% and increases healing received by 20%. So what your priority should be is to get at least rejuven life bloom on yourself, bear form, then backskin, okay, then frenzied regen, and then you want to be rooting. That should be your number one priority. Obviously if you can root them, but I tend to do all that, then I'm rooting them, and then I will come to a pillar. With roots, what I would do is don't root them out in the open where they can get dispelled. Wait till they come to you. Say if the DPS, so I'm the DPS here and you're here, root them right as they get next to you, and then run around. That way the healer is going to be out of line of sight of them. You can come around here, and on literally just running around, you can life bloom, bear form, backskin. You can be putting the hots on yourself rather than going out of line of sight. Put the hots on yourself, then when they come in line of sight, then root them, bash them, run around. Also remember, you've got clone. Always fake cast the first one. Most classes have the ability to interrupt you twice, would that be through a stun, or that be through some sort of attack or kick. Rogues have cheap shot, they have kidney, so check your DRs before you go for clone, because the amount of people I've seen try and clone, they get kicked and then they just panic and die. You've kind of got 3 layers of defensives. Obviously, most of the time, you're not going to die if you've got triple life bloom on yourself, regrowth, and then you bear, and then you frenzied regen. However, if it's a warrior with avatar, if it's a DH, if it's a DK doing a big go, that is probably not going to be enough. So what I would prioritize in obviously is having the life bloom, but then you want to be throwing scenario ward, you want to be getting a guardian out, and then the chances are you're going to tank that. Or you can obviously add Iron Bark onto that. You've got so many defensives, but like I said, the number one thing is that you have heals on yourself before you backskin. Otherwise, backskin alone isn't going to save you. If you've got no heals on yourself, you backskin and then frenzied regen, and you think that's going to save you, no, because that frenzied regen does almost nothing now. It's really not that good. So you want to have that extra life bloom, that extra hot on you, and then obviously your teammate can help, but you want to be using objects, running around them. You want to be abusing the cat form macro, so to get in and out of snares. Then when you've got free, healing yourself, going back into cat form, back skinning, frenzied regen, rooting, and then don't forget that you can fly to your teammate like that and go to a pillar, particularly if they're a caster or warlock. So there's so much you can do. You've got your sprint, you've got your stampeding roar, which automatically normally puts you in bear form too if you're in human form. But yeah, it's really easy to kite. The last tip I want to show you is if a hunter's going to CC you, stand under a Grove Guardian. and the chances are that if you summon it on top of you like that, it will layer over you and take the trap. I would normally stand a little bit behind it, just so the hitbox of that is bigger than you. I've actually got a nice shot that shows doing that. It's a really nice one to prevent you getting trapped. However, it's not going to stop other CC. But guys, this is a one-stop whistle tour of a Restoration Druid guide. I hope it's helped. I hope it's getting you excited for Druid this season. My goal is to get to Gladiator on it. I'm really excited. Head over to the stream to check me out. And come and ask me questions. Ask me why I do stuff, why I think of stuff. How I've maybe things I've not maybe covered in this guide, but obviously this guide is built on top of my other ones, and it is pretty much just your one-stop tour on what you need to do and goes straight to the point, and I don't waffle on for too long. In the meantime, guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button, travel over to Twitch, drop me a follow, and be kind, be peaceful, and remember, most of all, you are appreciated. Bye.